Coach, when you have a game that kind of gets out of hand like the last one did, what do you tell your guys to help them kind of put that behind them?
Yeah, really the corrections. They'll be in a game where it is like that, like you described. There'll be a few more corrections, and so I think you still do that, and then touch on some of the things that might have not been X's and O's that just you talk through as coaches and. Like a game you win, how'd you start, how'd you finish, how were adjustments, reacting to X, Y, Z. So, you still try to go back to what did we do wrong? How can we get better at it? How can we fix it for next week? As boring as that sounds, sometimes.
Coach Leach mentioned after the game that some guys were kind of inventing their own routes in the second half, kind of led to some of the miscommunication. What did you see from your standpoint?
Yeah, a couple times it was just, signal stuff. Just communication, which we've been really good with so far this year. And so, quarterback to receiver, receiver to quarterback, some of that kind of stuff. We got to do better.
Is that a pretty easy thing to kind of correct in 1 week, the signal stuff and that communication?
Absolutely, yeah. And we really haven't had a ton of them up until that point. And I just think, sometimes a guy can lose focus or stuff like that. And then, I know we've got to do a better job as coaches. I got to get my guys going better on the inside with stuff like that.
Rufus already had a pretty good camp, only 8 snaps in the game. Is there anything that he's doing that could help him get more playing time?
He's practicing well. I think it's he's still working, and I think his time will come this year. So again we've moved some guys around and some different things. So now he's doing well, and he's still kind of growing in that process.
Vanderbilt appears to play a lot of zone. What do you see from them coverage-wise and maybe man versus zone?
Yeah, they do both, like a lot of people, based off the situation. But I think if they could pick one, it would in the open field it'd be zone. They're going to do what they do a little bit like we do a little bit on offense. So I think that's what they kind of hang their hat on right now. For whatever reason this particular year, and so that's okay, and we're always kind of prepared for both.
Coming off a loss like that, how have the guys been in practice so far this week?
Good. I've always said before as coaches, it's good. We stay young because kids, sometimes in a good way get over stuff quicker, and so, but you have to. Coaches does a great job with that. Hey, it's over, and Sunday night it's over. Win or lose, let's go. And so I thought they turned that corner really quick, which was good.
Is it easier to implement the corrections after a big win or a big loss? Are the guys a little more tender to the suggestion after a loss like that?
I personally don't think so. I think you have to make the corrections, reinforce them, and get on them or not get on them, however the best way is to do it. I know personally I try not to decipher between the team we play or if we win or lose, because they're all really important. They can bite you later. So, I think for some guys it does. Particularly for me, I don't get too much into that.
With Scooby Ford, what's kind of allowed him to take the next step in terms of playing time, I guess, on the field?
Yeah, practicing really well, which again I know is kind of boring, but come a long way with his hands, his ball skills. He's always been really fast. He just kind of worked on his craft for the last 9 months, and he's always out here off season when you're just it's getting dark. I look out my window, there's usually a reason why guys play, and so I've been really proud of him, and hopefully he continues to get better.
How do you practice hand placement? I know like some guys like catch soccer balls sometimes. Like, do you guys do anything kind of weird like that to practice that catching placement?
Yeah, it kind of just depends. We use the jug machine. I've never been a huge you have to catch it with your hands. I hate body catchers. Wes Welker caught it with his body all the time, so a lot of times. So I think it just depends on the particular guy. Now, certain routes and where certain defenders are on you, you have to use your hands. But try not to get too carried away with it. And some guys just naturally have good ball skills. Ball skills are hard to teach. Some guys, it's really, really fluid, and other guys, they kind of catch it in shifts, so to speak, and so some of that you got to kind of work through.
Vanderbilt, not a team blessed with a bunch of speed in the secondary. Does that make you guys stress like vertical deep routes more this week?
I think we're going to run kind of what we do, and at times, like we do every game, kind of take what the defense gives you, and they play certain coverages like everybody else does from a standpoint like, hey, we're not going to get beat deep. On this third down, we're not going to do this, this, and this. And so, I think everybody tries to take their shots. You just got to be smart when to do it.
Coach, what improvements have you seen from your team this week in practice as opposed to earlier in the season?
I think, as we get, now it's halfway through the year. I know I stress to my guys, I talk about it like, how many days a year do you work really hard? And we only get 12 times. That's what kind of stinks about football. Baseball, 162 regular season games. You only get 12, and all the stuff these guys do. So you better take advantage of every one of them because those 12 days are really fun. And I think they're realizing that. I talked about that in my group. We win this week. We're above 500, and we're now past the halfway point of the season. And so, how motivated are you? And I think that always comes into play.
One of the things that we see from the casual fans a lot is, why don't they take more shots down the field? And sometimes you have a 2 and sometimes 3 safety look. How do you respond to that? I mean, because you mentioned kind of taking what the defense gives you. I mean, how difficult is it to take a shot when you've got split safeties next?
Yeah, no, kind of what you said. I mean, at times, again, we see a decent amount of drop 8 and drop 8 defenders. And so if those 3 guys are 20 to 25 yards deep after the snap, it can get hard. And we've got to get better. The best thing to do is get them out of that by doing all the other things right. Then you can kind of go over the top. And so one helps the other. There's been a time or two this year where we've done well against zone. All of a sudden we put them in a man coverage. Then they got out of that pretty quickly. And so we have to keep doing stuff like that because one helps the other and vice versa. Yeah.
What have you thought of your team's blocking on screen so far? It seems like it's been pretty solid.
Yeah, no, it's been good. We work it a lot, and my guys got to do it, and sometimes they might not like to practice it all the time. But no, it's been, knock on wood. It's been pretty good so far, and we're going to continue to work that in practice every week.
Go. So, Coach, a lot of movement with your front. How difficult is that to teach and to keep guys from getting out of position, maybe showing too much movement?
That's a good question, and obviously it's the DNA of what we do. So day one, we're moving, we're pinching, we're looping, and such. So a lot of our drill work, pertains to that, and that way the guys get comfortable and they have aiming points that they're looking to get to. So we got to be detailed in what we do, and we just keep repping it over and over and over. If you look at it, we're running the same thing from week 1 to week 5 and so forth. So that consistency, I think, really helps the guys out. Again, it's year 2 in the program, and so those guys are more comfortable with what we do. And then as long as we're violent with our hands at the point of contact, good things are going to happen.
Jack Harris had one of his better games against Alabama, and DeMonte starting to get more reps. What do you see from those two at the end?
A physical element that we definitely need, And Jack, he's a hard worker. He gets after it. Love having him out there, and so. And then with the emergence of Monte, I mean, obviously, we knew what he was capable of, and he's really like a true freshman out there. So every rep that he takes is a learning process. He's getting better, and I think we'll continue to see him out there more as the weeks go on, and hopefully continue to see more production out of him. But he's a tall guy. He's a strong guy that can add a little bit of length out there to the defensive end spot.
Jack Harris, where have you kind of seen him maybe grow the most this past couple of weeks to earn that big snap increase against Alabama?
Really, his consistency and his confidence, and Jack's a guy that he wants to do right every play and every step. He wants everything to be perfect, and so sometimes you got to tell him, hey, it may not look pretty, just we got to get it done. And so he's playing with a lot more confidence. Obviously, being in the second year of it. He understands what we're asking him to do, and he loves the game, so he just, he'll run through a wall, and that's what he tries to do on every snap. So that's why you got to love him. And you see him out there on the special teams, and that's what he tries to do. He gives it, every ounce that he's got in his body, he puts it out there on the field.
Coach Clark said on Tuesday, that Mike Wright, the dual threat quarterback, would start in favor of Kenny Seals. How does that change maybe the game plan for the defensive line when you have a guy that is a threat to run as well as pass?
Well, no question, he's a great athlete, and he can run it, he can throw it, and having that dual threat, just like you said, it makes it tough, right? So we want to try to keep the bookends and kind of keep them enclosed in that pocket try to restrict it as much as we can. But of course, they got some good linemen up front and got a good run game, and then you add the quarterback run game into it as well. That's just having an extra guy running through there. So we'll have our work cut out for us. And so we've been practicing the quarterback run game stuff and trying to keep that pocket collapsing around him, and hopefully we can get him down before he really gets going. But yes, he's a great athlete, and it definitely changes what your thought process is and what your game plan is.
What have you seen from Nathan Pickering over the last few weeks?
More confidence, and he's his whole being has really changed over the course of really the last maybe 3 or 4 games, and I think he's having more fun out there. He's understanding what his role is, and he's getting a chance to make some plays, and so he's more confident. He's playing with low pad level. He's an athlete all the way back from when he was in high school, so what you got there. It's just that consistency that he's now bringing to the table, and that energy and effort of that passion and love for the game. You can obviously see it showing up on game day.
Every SEC team obviously has good linemen, but how much of a test was it to go against Alabama with guys like Evan Neal and that on the O-line?
Oh, obviously a great test, and I mean, let's be honest, any game in the SEC is going to be a great test, right? Just the DNA and chemistry of each individual team is what it is, but no question you get to go up against one of the best in the country, and you come away with things that you liked, and you come away with things that you didn't like, and you try to keep building on the things that you like, and you work on fixing the things that you didn't like. So,
what were some of the things you didn't like from that game?
We just didn't play a complete game. We've got to be able to play a complete game as a defense and make some more plays. Obviously, there was a great program, great team out there on that field, and so we got to be able to match up blow for blow if we want to get to where we want to get to.
Coach, coming off a tough loss to Alabama last weekend, how have you kept your team confident and motivated this week in practice heading to Nashville?
That's a great question. These guys, they love football, and so win or loss, no matter who the opponent is, the 24-hour rule sets in place. So once we finish up our night practice on Sunday, guys put it to rest and they move on to the next opponent. And obviously playing in the SEC West, you're going to have a tough opponent each and every week. So if you dwell on a win or you dwell on a loss, ultimately it's going to hurt you the next week. So you got to get rid of it, throw it away, and start all over through your process. And you got to trust that process from the game planning, the practices, the film study, all the things that these guys do leading up to a game to get themselves prepared. And we got great young men that love football, so it's easy to hit the reset button and start all over each week.
Hey,
I saw a lot of Jack Harris recently. What do you kind of like from him on that defensive end spot to kind of get that snap increase?
Obviously he's a do your job kind of guy, that's what we preach around here is be the best at doing your job and be the most excited to play. You hear Coach Leach talk about it all the time, and he's one of those guys. So he's earned the right to be out there and get a lot of reps.
Randy has announced that they're going to go with Mike Wright, more of a dual threat type quarterback. How does that change your game plan a little bit when you have to consider him in the running game?
Oh, definitely. I think I would say he's the most athletic, dangerous runner we've faced at the quarterback position this year. Obviously quite a bit of quarterback design runs, or at least options for him to keep it last week, and they do a good job of moving him, getting him out of the pocket, so he has some options to throw the ball but pull it down and run it. And so I would say on every single play, right, all 11 guys got to be aware of the potential danger he poses. And then they got a good running game and good skill receivers, so it creates a lot more one-on-one matchups everywhere else.
I asked Coach Phelps the same question, but we're seeing DeMonte Russell get a few more reps at defensive end. What have you seen from him as he starts to get more comfortable and learning that learning curve?
I don't know what Coach Phelps said, but I would say that's what I'm seeing. We're getting more comfortable. It's very difficult to play fast and explosive when you're thinking, right? But as soon as you know what to do, it becomes second nature, and now your natural ability gets to shine through. And so that's showing up more and more. He did a couple good things. He still makes a mistake every now and then. We got to get corrected, but that's part of the growing process. Obviously, he missed a lot of reps last year. Being out with the injury, so it's good to have him back and running around out here. And he's providing some much needed depth.
Obviously, Pickering had more experience than DeMonte, but he seems to be having more fun and getting more comfortable out there.
Yeah, I really like, Pick and Cam Young are mainly our two inside guys at the nose position, and we feel like, there's absolutely no drop off from one to the other when they're out there, and so they're telling linebackers play better. We're going to put both of them out there.
When you have a running quarterback, how important is it to have a guy like Nathaniel Watson that can play sideline to sideline as opposed to tackle to tackle?
Yeah, you better be able to pursue the football, and you better have disciplined eyes. Obviously, Bookie's done a nice job at that Mike position. That typically should be your leading tackler, right? You're the middle linebacker in the middle of the defense. You're the guy who has the best opportunity to flow sideline to sideline, and he's a little faster than probably people give him credit for. So he's done a nice job, and he's going to have his work cut out for him this week.
The team talks a lot about the 24-hour rule. How hard is it to flush performances that I'm sure you're not happy with as a team?
I think all you got to do is turn on the tape of the next opponent, and Vandy, they drive down in kind of 4-minute mode. They end up kicking a field goal. They got a 6-point lead, and it takes a 2-minute drill, I believe, to pull out the victory for South Carolina. And so it doesn't take long to turn on the film and go, yeah, they got SEC scholarship football players on there, and they're fired up to, get after us. And there's some things we put on tape that I'm sure they're looking at and going, hey, we got all kinds of opportunity to score points. And so it's not too hard to follow the 24-hour rule there.
Have you looked a lot at the game film from last year's game against Vanderbilt?
We've obviously looked at it because you're seeing similar, a lot of same guys played in it, but it's a different staff. So there's crossover. I mean, there's carryover among any team in college football scheme-wise, but it's certainly not the same scheme.
When you watched back that Alabama game, what kind of jumped out at you from the tape as things you really kind of needed to address this week, make sure it didn't kind of linger into the following week?
Oh, I think the biggest thing that needed to be addressed is the defensive play calling. You guys can call it excuse or not or whatever, but there's a lot of plays that happen in that game that they're not on the players now. I mean, it's the responsibility of a coach to put them in the best position to be successful. And on certain down and distances, there were certain calls that did not do that. And so, that's kind of the accountability. We expect the players to be accountable, all right, for what they do in their job. Well, the same thing applies to us. And I made some play calls that put them in some really bad positions against some really good players. And give the coaching staff credit. Alabama, they had a really good game plan, and they maximized their personnel and got them in good situations, and I did not, and that's my fault. So that's the biggest issue we need to address.
So what have you seen from Vanderbilt that concerns you?
I mean, they are moving the ball on offense. Obviously, you see what Mike Wright is doing with his legs. A lot of those receivers who are playing are the same guys who played against us last year, and if I'm not mistaken, I think they threw for over 300 yards or close to it. They got some big physical guys who can create some matchup problems. You can get physical at the top of routes and create some separation. I don't think we're in a position, based on the way we're playing right now or the way I'm calling some bad defenses, I don't think we're in a position to, take anything for granted. We got a lot of things we need to fix.
Knowing how close that game was last year, does that help you kind of get these guys to lock in, to not take this game for granted by any stretch?
I would sure hope so, but Vandy's going to come out and punch us in the mouth. And if I haven't done a good job of getting us prepared to play during the week, I'm sure that'll wake you up. Because it's going to be a physical football game. It's going to be a dang good football game. They got 85 scholarship football players just like us, and so we better be ready for a 60-minute four-quarter war, or else we're going to get beat. That's how it goes. College football, you see it every week.
Halfway through the season, how have you thought about the overall performance of the defense?
I would say mixed. Good. There's been good and there's been bad. When we're operating on all cylinders and we're not making stupid calls and guys are flying around and doing what they're supposed to, we're pretty good. And when we make reckless calls, or if we blow an assignment, you're pretty bad. I mean, that's probably every team in the country. So obviously, there's plenty of room for improvement here over the second half.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.